So I wonder if anyone who is tuning in today has a guess for the prompt in the email to join, which is, what is the average spending on healthcare in the US?
I would definitely have not known, not even guessed closely. So hats off to anyone who gets it right. I'm very impressed.
So the first stat I pulled for this blew me out of the water, and then I found a more updated stat and I almost died. So the first stat was $7,221 per person spending.
And let's just refresh for people who don't know the population of the United States. Is it still 380 something odd, or is it? Okay, well, the last time I knew about it, it was like 382 million.
Something like that. Something like that. And this is per person. So we're not looking at like overall spending. We're talking about each individual here. But I found a more updated stat, which is over $12,000 per person.
12, so not 7. Okay,
yeah.
Hang on a minute. That's almost double.
Who has that kind of money? That's what I want to know. And like, imagine if you weren't spending it on health and you were spending it on something else.
Oh, that's a fun holiday right there.
It's a really nice holiday. You have a family of 4, you're all spending $12,000. That's a good chunk of change. But it would be one thing if all of this money was going towards actually being well, but it's not.
Ooh, okay. Here you go. I sense you're going to get feisty.
Well,
yes, you are. Say it, girl.
We're not even paying to be well. We're paying to stay alive. And it goes back to the difference between lifespan and health span.
Yeah.
Paying someone to keep you alive $12,000 a year versus paying to get support to keep you thriving so you can take that holiday with all the money that you've saved. And it's a perpetuating system because most of those funds are going towards chronic diseases. And so because the diseases are chronic, by definition, you're spending it year over year over year. And usually those chronic diseases get worse, not better, right? So it's building on itself, right? 12,000 is the average. That means we have people much lower who aren't using it, and people a lot higher who are using it because expenses keep getting more and more. Because when you have one disease, the underlying, the pathology, what's going on in the body that contributes to the top killers, diabetes, cancer, neurodegenerative diseases, like they're very much the same under the surface. So if we were addressing the wellness component, then we wouldn't have the sick component. And the key is that this isn't just for US folks. Like, this is worldwide. I draw from the US because we have the highest spending per person in all Western countries by a pretty wide margin.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. I think probably, I'm really guessing, unqualified to speak about this, but I'm guessing that that's largely because you don't have a national health service, right? So there isn't a government provided for the people facility to have medical care on their dime.
Right. So we have the same issue from country to country. It's the problem of who's paying for it.
Right.
If you look at the overall spending, I mean, we're still talking billions, if not trillions of dollars. For most Western countries, healthcare is either the number 1 cost or the number 2 cost. Overall.
Before the military, right? That's scary.
Yeah,
that's scary, right? Defense of your country or keeping your people alive. I mean, both are critically important, but yeah, okay, that's that.
So if we instead shifted that focus to wellness, then we wouldn't have these compounding financial burdens that get worse and worse, and we would also be living better. And it's literally the same if you flip it to the animal side. Like, I'm sure we don't have the same kind of number of stats. I don't know, maybe if you dig deep enough, you can find them. But it's because it's the same model, it's the same problem. The difference is people put their pets down when they have often chronic diseases, right?
Yeah.
Would you agree? What's your take on that?
Yeah, unfortunately they do. That becomes a sanctioned, ethically approved option. And it's a cop-out. It's a cop-out loophole in the medical veterinary structure. Oh, well, we don't have to worry about figuring out a cure for that because we'll just put them down. I hate it, right? So that animal's life was worth more than you being lazy, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. So
you would have the same outcomes then, right? If we also, for our pets, focused on healthcare, wellness, promoting wellness from day one, and no matter what age you come in, focusing on the whole body, right? Like we talked about yesterday, you were talking about you're looking at longevity, wellness on a macro level, not the micro level. So if we shifted that focus to the macro level, what kinds of outcomes then would we see?
Well, you just wouldn't see diseases. I mean, it's kind of that simple. And I know that's making it too simplistic because stochastic events will happen. There'll always be germs. There'll always be pathogens, right? But I keep going back to this same thing. If your animal's immune system is optimized the way it's supposed to be, then just about any threat, and I say just about because there are exceptions, but just about any threat that comes across their pathway, right, whether that's an accident, injury kind of thing, or whether that's a pathogen or something else, their immune system is capable of confronting that. It's defeating that. It's going to beat that. You're going to get back to being healthy. That is the miracle of being alive, being sentient, being organic, as opposed to being inorganic. If you're inorganic, you can't do that. Right? And when you're alive, you can. It works in the opposite way from, okay, well, it doesn't work entirely in the opposite way of the second law of thermodynamics, but it sort of does, right? Everything is supposed to be moving from order to disorder, from information to chaos, right? That's the second law of thermodynamics, right? And our bodies do that over time through aging. Now, we can slow that down with information and energy that is used to harness the correct way to slow that process, right? And the immune system is the key driver in that. So protect your immune system, protect your pet's immune system. How do you do that? Well, you nourish them properly and you take the toxins out, optimize. like everything everything I look at, which is this big complicated picture of medicine and disease and death and but realistically, the nuggets that are at the core of this thing are so simple. It's easier for me to teach 7-year-olds this than it is to teach adults. Right? Because your adult brain gets in the way. Your adult brain comes up with excuses. Your adult brain comes up with exceptions and bad hearsay and rumor and false information. Whereas you explain the logic of it to a child and they go, yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah, I've seen that. That happened to me. I had a scrape on my arm when I fell off the swing and now my arm's better. Right? And they know that mum kissing it better helps, but they know that mum kissing it better doesn't heal it. Like their body healed it. Like it's really not even hard. Right? I bet if our animals were all talking, I could have a class. Oh my gosh, how happy I would be then. Imagine I have a class like my classroom of animals, right? And I bet they'd get it. Because they already know it. They already can do their own zoo pharmacognosy. They know stuff. Right? Let's not pretend that they can't get themselves well. How many of them out in the wild have their own personal vet? A big fat zero. So, are they getting these diseases? No, they're not. It's like I studied neuroscience, and so the whole concept of it's not rocket science, it's not like brain surgery, are phrases that you hear bandied around all the time, but it's really not. And then you would have preventative healthcare system instead of a sick care propping up system and euthanasia as the cop-out. Right? If you even having a systemic stem cell injection on a yearly basis is not as expensive as what you've just said is what people are spending on their own healthcare, even at the lower figure. And if you went in, and this is I firmly believe this is the future of medicine. can go into your vet or to your doctor and have an annual injection of your own stem cells being put back into you to re-optimize everything that's operating in your body and bringing it back into a more youthful state, then you're nurturing your immune system, you're growing younger, and you're staying stronger, and you never need to take medicine in your life.
Well, what's interesting is yesterday we talked all about how you come at it from this really unique perspective of longevity, and you don't want to be, you're not trained for it because you don't want to be, and you don't actively practice the nitty gritty. What's this little problem? Let's troubleshoot this little problem. And the point I'm trying to bring in here is we need both and. Because
Yes.
those of us in the longevity space, like, if you have some kind of infection, like, don't talk to us. Like, we're not going to be, right? So we need, if you're in a car accident, please, like, don't look to me for, like, advice or care, because I am not your girl. Like, that is not. So we need this system of acute issues.
100%. And it's never been better in that sense of what we can do to stop infection, to understand microsurgery, to use diagnostic imaging. Like, it's phenomenal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It saved my life on more than one occasion. And at the same time, it's also made me very sick on other occasions. Before I found functional medicine, before I knew that this was an area that I could really dive into and support myself on a more cellular level. So if we're not, I think this is the biggest misconception with functional and regenerative medicine. We're not suggesting replace everything with this. We're saying there needs to be more than one model, because there's more than just one type of condition, and they require different approaches. So this needs to exist alongside and give people the opportunity to seek out and get the care that best serves their illness. Again, if you're in a car accident versus if you have diabetes, these need to be two different systems. That 7-minute appointment with diabetes isn't going to cut it. So that's my non-rant. We're not ranting today.
Happy smiley faces. But yeah, what you said earlier about just about every one of those big killers on the cellular level at the beginning point of its inception as a disease state is effectively the same thing. So my focus was then, well, if it's that simple, let's just focus on that thing there, sort that out, and then everything downstream goes away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
it's like we've run out of words because it feels so simple. Sometimes it really does feel so simple.
There's the answer. There's the other. We've just solved world health.
So share this with your friends. You send it to your congressman. Yeah, but I think unfortunately, it's not going to start top down. It's not going to start with government movement. It's going to start with us. It's going to start with the people living the experience, because it takes a pretty big push for a system that's already in place to start changing.
Yeah, you don't turn the Titanic on a dime, right?
Right.
So it really doesn't actually start with us. I would beg to differ there. I'd say it starts with the people who bothered to go into labs and funding and research to figure out the science. Because let's be real, I'm a scientist. I love science, but am I working in like a laboratory setting? Am I working in pure research? No, I'm not. I'm using the research that others have taken blood, sweat, and tears to produce, and bridging that gap between the scientific community who are doing it and writing about it, and to the people who need that information. And in my case, my people have 4 legs. You know what I mean? So I'm bringing that to where it can be enacted and put to use. So it starts with those brainiacs who are taking that step and then sharing it with us, and then we can connect you guys to it, and then you guys can run with it, you know.
But by us, I mean like the everyday person, because it's
I realize that.
Still this kind of supply and demand issue. Like, if people are interested in it, that's where when there's a movement around it and there's excitement around it and there's potential money to be made around it, that's unfortunately where a lot of the funding goes. That's where the science will develop. And so when we as a people kind of come together and push for this healthcare, and we push for this more holistic and comprehensive approach and root cause approach and all the things, there is more money to be had for other people, and there is more buzz there. And so potentially more funds then going into it. So if we can, we have to kind of think about what that looks like on an individual level for folks listening. What does that look like for you to not just for sort of the greater good push for this, but on a personal level, because you're going to experience those benefits too, and not just for yourself, but oh my gosh, when people around you see that change, it is so incredibly powerful. There's a reason why most of the patients I work with are people who know people I've already worked with, because they just emanate this vitality, this radiance, their whole life changes because of the power of what they're doing. And so if we can sort of adopt that and practice lifestyle medicine, practice those 7 pillars, practice supporting our mental, emotional, spiritual health as one, we can not only reap the benefits, but then we're working towards that bigger goal that we all have in common.
See,
that's my call to action today.
World health.
Yeah.
Next week we'll do World Hunger. How's that? No, I'm joking.
Well, so what is the call to action today? What can we do walking away from this conversation? Penny?
Don't put me on the spot. What can we do walking away from this conversation? Well, I mean, bank your dog and cat stem cells. That's my piece of information. Genuinely. And start now, because if you don't start, no one's going to start it for you. Let's be real. Okay. And your pets are probably trying to start themselves, but depending on how much access they have to the wider world beyond your house and garden is going to limit their ability to go about it and accessing that. And that's why we see them when we're on walks, scavenging and looking here and looking there and eating something weird, all right, and tasting that leaf. And you're like, no, don't eat, right? They're trying to find what it is they're missing. So the more freedom you give them, the more freedom you give yourself to do it yourself, permission to do it yourself. I don't know what it is. I don't know what stops people. I can guess, but I don't know, right? And so maybe there's permission there that I'm not, okay, here's the thing. I'm not qualified because I'm not medically trained. I'm not qualified because I'm not a doctor. I'm not qualified because I didn't study nutrition. I'm not. So people carry this thing of I'm not, right? They say this, I'm not, rather than I can, right? And we so can, because let's be real, internet. Hello, all answers to just about everything are available. Yes, it takes time. Yes, it takes effort. Yes, you have to know right from wrong and truth from lie. That's why we help you with that. But yes, you can, because we did. So if we can, you can, right? So no one's going to do it for you. If you want it, you need to do it. And if you want that for your pets, you also need to do it, because they don't have the freedom to do it themselves.
And I think starting now, what you just said, not waiting till there's a problem, or if there is already some kind of problem, not waiting till it gets worse. We tend to put off our own health in favor of our loved ones, or because we don't have the time, or because we're too busy, or whatever it is. But we
don't have $12,500, right?
Yeah. But there's so much you can do that's free, that's low cost, that truly, truly does add up and makes those other costs, both in terms of finances and quality of life, I mean, it's so incredibly impactful. So start now for yourself, for your pet, and share this with a friend. Share this with a friend who needs to hear this message, because it can be.
No, go ahead.
You go ahead.
I was going to say the old adage that I've heard a number of times in the functional medicine space is, if you don't invest small in your wellness, you will pay big for your illness. I was like, yeah, actually, that's true.
On that note, we'll see you guys next week, Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. back for another coffee chat. Until then, have a wonderful week and stay young.